Okay, everybody, I want to talk about budget kit building options for your Panasonic camera. Particularly this is aimed at the GH3 and even more so the GH4. A lot of new people new to the Micro Four Thirds format are entering and getting cameras as second or primary cameras, and they may or may not have a full-blown, Panasonic Olympus lens kit. For those of you that do not know, the Micro Four Thirds format is a kind of a reboot. It is a reboot of the full 4/3 format, which debuted around 2006. And it was pretty much abandoned a few years ago, and because Micro Four Thirds is a better system, there's no mirror, the lenses are smaller, the glass is cheaper. But so you have these full 4/3 format lenses that are phenomenal glass-wise, they're great image quality, and more importantly, they can communicate electronically with the camera. You can change the aperture, the focus in the camera. Because that's an abandoned format, all the lenses are surprisingly dirt cheap. Primarily, I want to talk about the Olympus 14 to 54 millimeter 2.8 to 3.5 zoom lens, not even $100. 30 millimeter 1.4 Sigma for full 4/3 format. I got mine for $168. It retails for $500. There are other full 4/3 lenses you can buy as well, but I'm primarily going to focus on the Olympus 15 to 54 and the 30 millimeter Sigma. Okay, the first lens I want to talk about is the 14 to 54 millimeter Olympus, which is what I'm filming with right now. So I'd love to show you the lens, but I'll have to cut away to it later on. But anyway, this lens is dirt cheap. How cheap? Originally it was like a $600 lens. I got mine for $98. You don't believe me? Here's the auction I won it on. And here's some other auctions where it's actually going for a little bit cheaper. You can get a 2.8 zoom lens for $98. Now granted, it's not a constant aperture, it goes up to 3.5, but that's fairly close to 2.8. It's annoying to have the aperture stop down as you zoom in, but on DSLRs, who zooms in and out anyways? Now one note I have to remind you is the 98 under $100. That is the Mark I version of the lens. There are two versions, Mark I and Mark II. The Mark II version goes for like $250 used, and what you're getting with the Mark II version is the autofocus is quicker and the focus ring is a little bit better. But they're very close. It's pretty much the same lens if you're not doing photography. So from a video standpoint, we're using manual focus most of the time anyway. Now what I love about the 14 to 54 millimeter Olympus right here is the close focusing distance. You can get 3 inches in front of the lens and be in focus. So that is great for getting your background out of focus. It's great for almost macro shots. It's not technically macro, but as you can see, you can get very close, right up to the lens almost. Now granted, I know what you're all saying is, oh, don't we need an expensive adapter for this? That'll bump up the price. Yes and no. Adapters are so cheap nowadays, they're like $50. So even with the cost of an adapter, this lens is still dirt cheap. So the lens is like $100, the adapter is like $50. $150 is dirt cheap for a 14 to 54 millimeter 2.8 to 3.5 zoom lens. And then the next lens I want to talk about is the 30 millimeter Sigma for, once again, the full 4/3 system. Originally retailed at like $500, back in the day, 2011, 2012. But now I just won one on eBay not too long ago and was $168, which is pretty much a steal. And I tried the 25 millimeter Panasonic 1.4. It's a great lens, but it's amazing what a difference the extra 5 millimeters make, because the background is very creamy and very blurry with this. So this is just like the perfect focal length for me, especially for interviews. Now the main issues with this lens, which I really can't complain about considering how cheap it is, but one, the focus ring is a tiny bit stiff, but you get used to it. Another nitpicking thing with this lens is that the Panasonic cameras do not recognize you're trying to adjust focus when you have manual focus assist on. And manual focus assist is if you have a lens that communicates with the camera electronically, the camera will automatically zoom in whenever you touch the focus ring if you have that feature on your Panasonic camera turned on. For whatever reason, that feature does not recognize when I focus with this, so you will have to do it by eye or just zoom in manually and press the zoom in button on the back of your camera. One major point that I really need to address, though, is this lens, especially at 1.4 wide open, it flares very heavily. All you have to do to fix that is just get a bigger lens hood. This lens hood is not sufficient. When I took this lens out for a test spin, I found myself trying to cup the top of the lens with my hand, and I'll show you a sample of that right here, and you can see me wave high. But again, it's nothing. You just go on Amazon or B&H and you get like a $5 to $10 lens hood that's probably like an inch or two bigger. And they make lens hoods that are rubber, so you don't have to worry about the extra size. Because I think you'd want a really big lens hood about like that yay tall maybe. And so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get like a rubber one, so I don't have to worry about the extra size in my bag. So, floop, problem solved. And one minor nitpicking thing, it's not a huge big of a deal, but if you ever have if you're wide open and your subject has back rim lighting on them, you will see a tiny bit of ghosting on your subject, but it's not the end of the world. So, I mean, for $160, $70, you really can't complain. I mean, this lens looks phenomenal. In the proper conditions. Stop down, it's sensational. I love it at 1.4, excluding the flare, but I can easily fix the flare. All right, and so for like not even $300, like $270 plus the adapter, you get a nice starting kit. You get a 14 to 54 millimeter Olympus and a 30 millimeter Sigma for low light situations and interviews. So, you have a nice basic kit to get a shoot covered from beginning to end with. So, and as you move along, you just fill out the rest of your kit with glass as you can afford it. You obviously want to get something that's tighter, something that's wider as you move on, but, not a bad starting kit for the price you're paying. Okay, and if you're curious, I recently shot a promo video for PIFA and PFEI, which are local video meetup groups in the Philadelphia area, using only the 30mm Sigma, occasional 14 to 54mm Olympus. It was a little bit too dark in there, so I had to rely on the Sigma for the most part, and also used the Olympus VN8100 with the under-over covers for sound. So you can check that out. The link is in the description right here, and thanks for watching.